So thanks again for joining us today. I wanted to take a few minutes to share something with you. When I get excited about software, I go all in and go a little crazy with it. But this software has been saving me tons of time. And that's why I wanted to share it with you and tell you also about the bigger course that I'm doing that Daryl is already part of. Thank you. Because I know that video editing can be one of those things that can be a huge stumbling block to doing more video or podcast editing. I was doing a podcast for a couple months and I realized it was taking me 2 days, an entire weekend to do it. I haven't done one in the last few weeks, but I have found a way to significantly reduce that, basically simplify that process and reduce the amount of time I spend in it. Without further ado, as they say, I'm going to share my screen and walk you through this software that I think is a true game changer. And I don't really like the expression game changer because it's so overused, but in this case, I think it fits the bill. Again, thank you for being here. If you're here for the Descript webinar, you are in the right place. If you're new to me, which I don't think anybody is, but I spent about 20 years in the TV industry. And I like to say that when I worked at E-Entertainment Television, video editing required a room that looked like NASA, an edit bay, with thousands of dollars worth of equipment. And it usually took 2 or 3 people to edit a 30-second promo, which is what I did when I worked at E-Entertainment Television a million years ago. So I did work in TV for quite a long time. When I got out of that, I was creating video on YouTube since the very beginning of YouTube, since YouTube started in 2005. And I've been doing online marketing and video marketing ever since. Let me see if everybody's muted here, just so we get a nice clean recording. Hang on a minute. I don't know how to do that, so I can't find it. So yeah, if you're on here, if you're able to mute, just so we get a nice clean recording, I'm more than happy to have you unmute if you have questions. Let me just take a quick look. Some people are just popping in here, so we'll just let them into the room and we'll get moving. All right, awesome. Again, I came from the TV business. I do have a background in video editing, and it used to be really complicated. And then it got less complicated, but still complicated. And now it's much, much simpler. So the problem with video in general, and I think why people don't do more of it, even though they know they probably should, is because traditional video editing has a pretty steep learning curve. I use or have used for many years Final Cut Pro, which is an Apple product, but it does have a fairly steep learning curve. I'm sorry, I'm just muting folks as they come in so we won't get any background noise for you. All right. People are still coming in. Yay. So the thing about video editing and podcast editing, as I learned the hard way, is that it's very time consuming and it can be complicated. And if you have traditional video editing software, I know Final Cut Pro is $299, Camtasia costs $299, Adobe Premiere is $239, Adobe After Effects, which I have, is $360. This crap adds up really fast. And then if you want to add photos and things like that, iStock Photos is $99 a month. If you're doing transcriptions, it's anywhere from $1.50 a minute to more. And then if you have a podcasting app like Headliner, those can be $20 a month or more. So it really adds up. And what I found a few months ago when I discovered Descript was that this tool replaces many, if not all, of those other tools. Because with Descript.com, you can do video editing, which I've been doing. You can do podcasting. You can record on your screen like you would with Loom. You can do instant transcriptions like you would with Rev.com or Otter. You can also create clips like you would on Headliner. So it really replaces a ton of other apps, including AI voices. There are a lot of voice apps or voice over apps, and most of them sound fairly fake and robotic, but Descript sounds remarkably realistic. So I'm not the first one to find this, obviously. A lot of folks and a lot of professional podcasts have been using Descript to create and edit their podcasts, like Conan O'Brien, NPR, other folks that are using Descript to edit their audio podcast, but it also does video editing. And the beauty of Descript for video editing is that it takes away the traditional timeline editing and it turns it into text or word-based editing. So typically when I do a video or podcast in Final Cut Pro, it looks like this. And you can see why it takes 2 days to put this together. I have clips coming in and out. I have overlays. I've got effects. I've got music. I've got all this stuff. And even though I've been using Final Cut Pro for 20 something years, it still takes time and it's still a steep learning curve. So this same project, this Godfather podcast in Descript looks like this, which is somewhat less intimidating, I think. And basically what I'm able to do is there's still a timeline down here, but I'm really able to edit the words or the text. So I import my audio or video and Descript automatically transcribes that and gives you the text, and I can edit from the text rather than trying to edit and cut in the timeline. I can still use the timeline for micro edits, but for the most part, I'm taking a process that took probably 10 hours and I'm able to bring it down honestly into 2 hours. And this is for a complicated 10-minute podcast with dozens of different clips in it. If you have something like a Zoom recording that you've done, like when I was doing my interview series, I would interview the person on Zoom. So here's my friend Liz Scully from the UK. And I would bring that into Final Cut Pro. And you can see, even though it's a basic Zoom edit, I still had to add all the overlays and graphics and music and cut it all up. And again, very time consuming way to edit. And it took a very long time to do it this way. And I still certainly have not completely abandoned Final Cut Pro, but this same Zoom style interview I now do in Descript. And again, obviously it looks a little cleaner because it is a little cleaner, a little easier. I bring in the Zoom. It gives me the transcript on the left in text and the image on the right. All I did here was I added an overlay to match their branding. And then I edited the rest of it via the text. So it's just very simpler and much faster and a lot easier to do with Descript. So the basic features of this software are that you import your video or audio into Descript, and then you edit from the text rather than trying to edit in a timeline. I'm just going to double check my mutes here just to make sure that we're all muted and there's no background noise for you. So we'll give you a nice clean recording of this afterwards if you came in late or if you missed anything. So you're editing from text, which is really the main reason that it's different from linear editing that's done in a timeline. Anything that you take out of the text will also come out of the video. So if you repeat yourself, if you cough, if you say and ah a lot, you can edit all that out. The other thing that's really cool about this is they have a one-click audio effect here called Studio Sound. And I call it the NPR effect because it makes even marginal audio sound like the sort of deep radio voice. And this is also good because if you have background noise, in many cases, it will edit it out. I did a video outside in the courtyard recently, and I realized after I shot the video that there was a fountain in the background that was really loud, and it basically drowned out my voice. I brought that video into Descript and added the studio sound, and the fountain completely disappeared. You couldn't hear any of the background noise. You could only hear me, which is, again, what you basically want. The other thing that's really cool about this is if you're editing a podcast, or if you're like me and you say and ah a lot, you can remove all of the filler words with one click as well. So anytime you've got an or an ah, it'll take all of those out and just make it sound a lot more professional. And I'll show you a few screenshots and a few real world examples of this, but you can also add photos and video and music from their own library. So if you need B-roll or video or audio, you can add that. You can create new scenes in this. So the far left here, and I'll show you a better picture of this, but this is where you can bring in different scenes and rearrange it like PowerPoint. So again, you're not down here cutting and slicing and moving. You're doing pretty much everything within the text. The other thing that I got pretty excited about was that you can replace the background of any video, regardless of whether or not you have a green screen. You can change the background with one click and put in a new background. And that's something that, again, if I had to go back to Final Cut Pro, that would probably take about 45 minutes to knock out this background and have it look really good. With Descript, I can do that with one click. You can also add audio waveforms and progress bars. You can change the size. If you decide you want to do YouTube Shorts or TikTok, you can change to a portrait size. And again, I'll try to walk you through as much of this as possible to show you and give you a working knowledge of how this works. So again, how would you use this in the real world? Some of the ways I use it just off the top of my head is I turn audio podcasts into video podcasts. And I did that this morning with a client's podcast. You can take an article or a blog and plug it in here and turn it into a video with your voice or with one of the stock voices that they have. You can get the great green screen with one click, as I mentioned. You can resize and repurpose videos with this. Again, remove the filler words. You can edit Zoom videos to look much more professional. And again, I'm going from this typical Zoom edit in Final Cut to this Zoom interview edit in Descript, which again is just a lot cleaner and simpler to pull off. You can create clips and promos for podcasts. You can add intros and outros. You can create social media promos because they have all kinds of templates in here and tons of other stuff, more than I can cover in 40-minute webinar. In any case, they give you all these tools like a recorder or a video player. You can collaborate with colleagues and have them pitch in if you want. They've got templates. They've got stock media. It's really a fairly amazing all-in-one tool. And again, the main focus here is that you edit the text. And when you edit the text, those same changes show up in the video. So that's cool because you don't have to worry about this timeline as much. You don't have to worry about traditional linear editing. So if you just basically delete a line in the text, that same thing will disappear in the video. Again, the other cool thing is that the scenes are almost set up like a PowerPoint or a keynote presentation where you can move entire sections around without having to do cuts and edits in the timeline. And there's just a ton that you can do with it. Again, you can do images, videos, audios. The thing again I like is being able to remove the filler words. So in this, you can see I downloaded my client's video here, and I can see that there's a few ums and ahs, which I can easily remove with one click. I can also add captions, as you can see here, over the videos, which is particularly helpful if you're putting the video on Facebook and LinkedIn, where folks may not have the audio on and they're watching with the sound off. I mentioned their templates, which is really cool. A lot of folks come to me and say, can you create an intro for this video or an outro or something branded? And Descript has built-in templates like intros and outros where you can just take these almost like PowerPoint slides and customize them and edit them and then add them to your video. So again, you're not having to go into all this different software and all these different video softwares. You're basically staying within this one Descript platform and able to make those changes right from that platform. The other thing is, and I don't use this quite as much, is you can actually record directly into Descript like you would on a screencast on something like Loom. You can basically record your audio right into it, or you can be on camera and record right into it like you would on Zoom, or you can share your screen like you would on Zoom or Loom as well. So I don't use that quite as much because I'm still using Zoom quite a bit, but the fact that you can start and finish and do everything in this one place does definitely make it a lot easier. Earlier, I mentioned the studio sound, which is truly remarkable, I think. You can take out background noise. You can make your audio sound better. I have a client who does a podcast on Zoom, and oftentimes the background noise or it sounds a little tinny, but when I bring it into Script and add the studio sound with that one click, it really makes it sound a lot more professional. Down here, you'll see I've got, of course, an affiliate link for this. If you want to get a free trial or Descript, it's loubortone.com/D. Certainly don't have to use that, but Anyway, and I'm not affiliated with the company other than I've talked to many folks there, and I'm just a fan of the company. The other interesting thing that we're seeing a lot more of, especially with AI and all the artificial intelligence popping up, is the use of stock voices. And I know this is a little scary because it can imitate your voice or others. You have to use it responsibly. But the thing with Descript, which is interesting, is you can clone or record your own voice as a stock voice, but you can't do anybody else's. If I tried to bring in a document and then have this done in Cheryl's voice, I can't do it because Cheryl didn't give me permission to do that. She'd have to provide the voice to create that stock voice. What you can do is add stock voices or these somewhat generic voices. So if I bring in text here and I want a guy with a deep voice of God to do it, that's what the Dawn voice is. If I want a female with a British accent, that might be what the Ruth is. So I have all these different stock voices to choose from, which means I can take in a blog post or an article, and if I don't feel like reading it myself, I don't want to provide the voiceover myself, these stock voices will voice that for you. Probably not a great thing for voiceover artists, who I have many friends with that. There's always a place for that as well. So if you're in a hurry or if you're in a jam and you just need a stock voice, Descript will do a really good job with that. You can see in here, I created my own voice. So if I'm in a hurry or I want to overdub something, I can have this recorded in my voice, and Descript now knows my voice and will do a pretty accurate job of creating a video from text. So even with the stock voices, they go even further. If you pick the Carla female voice, I can't say that with a Boston accent, Carla. You can have a different formal accents or different intonations of that voice. And what I find is some of the AI voice creators are a little robotic and generic, but these are very realistic. And there's a lot of tone changes and things like that. So again, to create video without having to be on video or even to be on audio, you can use the stock voices for that. The other thing I like is if I record something and I forget a line or I forgot to put a link in or something like that, I can actually overdub and use my own voice. So rather than having to go back to Zoom or Final Cut Pro and re-recording that line, I can just type it in and overdub it with my own voice. So, oh shoot, I left out that line. I can just come in here and create what they call a shockingly realistic clone of my own voice, and then record the new words simply by typing it in. So again, I don't have to go back and, oh shoot, I have to start this whole video over. Now I can basically record a video, and if I make mistakes, I can eliminate them, or if I forget to say something, I can overdub them. So the way you do that is you basically give them a recording of your voice. I think you have to give them 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, and Descript will then learn your voice, and then you can use it as a clone of your own voice, which is scary but fun. Again, with these overdub stock voices, they give you very realistic voices and many voices to choose from. So here, this is from the Descript.com website. If you want to go and hear what some of these sound, you can go into Descript and do that. But again, it's realistic. It doesn't cost extra to do it. It blends in. You can do multiple voices. If you want to have two voices, like an interview, you can add two different voices. And again, as they say here, you can only clone your own voice, which is good. But for somebody like me who likes to make parody videos, that means I can't steal somebody's voice and put words in their mouth, which I guess is a good thing. Again, you can record right on the screen. So if you're using things like Zoom to create recordings or Loom, you can create a screen recording and it'll transcribe it as you speak rather than having to send it to Otter or another transcription service. As a video editor, one of the biggest benefits for me is that you can do green screen with one click, regardless of whether or not you have an actual green screen. No matter what your background is, however busy or disorganized or dark or light, you can knock out that background and put in a different background. You can put in a photo or a video. And if we have time at the end, I'll show you a quick sample of that as well. Descript also comes with video and audio and images. So I don't have to go and stop working in Final Cut and then go to iStock Photo or Unsplash and find B-roll because Descript has so much of that in here already, which is great. Because again, usually I would need 2 or 3 different pieces of software to do that, but here it's pretty much all in there. Even music and sound effects. So if I want to put a soundtrack underneath my video, I can just go into Descript and look at audio and then play different samples and see which of these might sound appropriate. So again, normally I would go to a site like audiojungle.net and have to go buy a $15 soundtrack or something. Here I just go into their stock audio, which are included in Descript, and I find something there. The other thing that's great about this is that it does the automatic ducking, and ducking is just the audio term for it'll make sure that the music does not overpower the voice and create it in such a ratio that the music's not competing with the voice. So it does the automatic ducking for you as well. Some of the other things I've been trying is creating social media videos. So whether or not I'm on camera, in some cases I'm not, I'm still able to do different clips and social media videos in various sizes, TikTok, Instagram Reels, traditional size. And you can use their templates to start with. So you can use their video or you can use your own video. But if you don't want to be on camera, there's certainly templates where you can just pop in here and add the words and music. Again, changing sizes is very easy. This is something that if I had a client who did a video and they said, I want to do this as a TikTok video, that meant I'd have to go into Final Cut and basically create a new video in that format. I'd have to do a whole new video in this portrait size. With Descript, you can just take that traditional widescreen video and just change it to a tall video with just a couple clicks. So that saves a huge amount of time as well. And it also means that you can repurpose those videos because now the video that you created for YouTube in a YouTube format can be used as an Instagram Reel or a TikTok video or a YouTube short without having to jump through a whole bunch of hoops. And then finally, you can output this in a number of ways as well. So if you are using other platforms and you say, this is good, but I want to bring it into Final Cut Pro or Adobe Premiere or YouTube just to tweak it a little bit, you can send it directly from Script to Final Cut Pro or Google Drive or Slack or YouTube. So it's very user-friendly in terms of playing well with others. If you're doing podcasting, you can also send it to some of your favorite podcast places. So rather than having to download it once and then re-upload it to YouTube, you can do that directly from Descript. Or maybe you're using one of these podcast platforms where you can send it directly to those platforms as well. So it does seem to play nice with others. Here you can see when I go to my Descript, this is what the initial screen looks like. So as you can see, I'm not just making this up. I'm using it for tons of clients multiple times a day. I just go to the Create New Project button. And from there, it's going to ask me if I want to choose a file to transcribe or start recording right on the screen. I can write on the screen and it will create the audio for that if I plug in my voice. Or you can start from a template, again, where they have a ton of little templates and things like that you can use. And I will definitely answer some questions when we get to the end here in just a moment. Oh, thanks, Daryl. So one of the things that I like, as I mentioned, is I don't often use a script with video, which means I say a lot. So in this particular video that I recorded here, you can see my ums and ahs, and you can see that there's a shit ton of them, which is just the way I talk. Again, if I go to remove filler words and click apply to all, those go away immediately and it's seamless and there's not like a big pause in between. It just sounds like a natural recording, except I've taken out all my ums and ahs and I means and stuff like that. So that alone makes your video sound a lot cleaner and more professional. And again, when you add that studio sound, you can take away a lot of the sins that may be in the background. If a jet was going over, yesterday we had fighter jets because I'm near an Air Force base and they were ruining my videos, but studio sound took those roaring jets out of the picture and just left my voice. So truly remarkable that you can do that. And then finally, when you want to export your video, you can export it as a video. You can export just the audio. You can export just the transcript, even just the subtitles. So when I do a podcast production for my client, I'm able to give them the audio, the cleaned up audio, the cleaned up edited video, the cleaned up transcript. So all that comes from this one source, whereas I used to have to go to rev.com and get a separate transcript. So again, it's just overall saving me a ton of time and replacing a bunch of other apps. In fact, I don't think I've used Loom, which I used to use every day since I've been using this. And I stopped paying for Headliner as well, which is another clip app that sort of took your pod and turned it into different size videos and resized videos. So it's really got a lot of uses. Again, the video editing, the podcasting, the screen recording, transcription, and all kinds of other things. This is from their website, just some of the raves about this. So it's not just me, but it really is changing the way we edit audio and video. And Cheryl says, do you read something for 10 minutes to allow it to clone your voice? Yes, the more time you give it, the more accurate it'll be, but you basically just read the Gettysburg Address or something that's longer than that so that it has a copy of your voice and then it will clone your voice from there. The other great thing about Descript is it doesn't really cost a fortune. I signed up immediately, but if you want to start for free, you can do that. If you want a creator program, it's $12 a month, which since I was able to eliminate several other apps and platforms, it's ultimately saving me money. I'm using the pro version of Descript because I'm using it for clients and I want to be able to, again, that gives me 30 hours of transcription a month and I can export unlimited videos, which you can also do in the creator version. This just also gives you more filler words and takes out repeated words, whereas the $12 version only takes out ums and ahs, which right off the bat is really good. So, and you can always bump up if you find you're using enough. But again, because I'm producing people's podcasts and videos, I use the pro version just because I use it so extensively. Hi, Diane. Diane's asking, what are the copyright implications for using stock and photos? Yeah, you would still own the copyright of anything you put in here if it's your own video. If you want to use Descript's templates and stock media, there's no implications to that. That's all fine. You can use it on YouTube or anywhere because they're pulling this in from Unsplash, Photo, and different B-roll video sources that they have permission to use. But anything you put on here doesn't become public domain and doesn't mean that anybody else can use it. The video is still your video and the images are still your images. So when you're using B-roll, you're only pulling in the stuff that Descript has access to. You can save templates. If I know I'm going to do a podcast and it's always going to have a blue background, I can save that as a template. And yeah, so again, the Descript is, you can get it, start for free. These guys are really good. They do 2 or 3 classes a week, which I've been attending fairly religiously. So it takes a long time, but I'm trying to stay on top of the curve. They also have hundreds of tutorials in YouTube. But what I realized is that for what most small business owners are using it for, they're not necessarily teaching all that. So I've created my own masterclass to show you how to do this, which again, I know some folks have already signed up and thank you for that. But if you want to really dig deep and get a total hand-holding, step-by-step, immersive, learn by doing kind of thing, I'm doing this masterclass where I'm going to show you every step of the way how this all works. So I called it Discovering Descript. You can find it at discoverdescript.com. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this live over in June on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but everything will be recorded. So you can go at your own pace or you can come to the live classes and it's going to be very interactive. Absolutely. There's an undo button. I use it all the time. You can gain hands-on experience because we're going to be working on actual projects. So if you have a podcast or a video that you're starting to create or want to create, we can do that as well. You can also start to customize your workflow because I'm doing so many podcasts. I've got it set up for that. And of course, we'll have the online community to help each other with that. So I think, again, because this is turning editing on its head, and because I think it's going to make video and audio editing so much more accessible, that's why I'm putting this class together. So it's basically 6 modules or 6 classes. You'll be done before 4th of July because it's all in June. So the first module will be a little like this, only a deeper introduction to Descript and a full tour. Second module will be more sound and audio editing for podcasts. Module 3 we'll go deep into video editing. And module 4, we'll talk about more advanced editing. 5 is how to publish and export and repurpose your content. And then 6 will be real world applications and doing our final project. So everybody will be asked to create a 1 or 2 minute video or podcast using Descript so that you're actually using it as we go and actually learning how to use it in the real world for whatever your cases may be. Lots of tutorials and extras as well I've got one on creating a podcast specifically, another on creating video intros, customized intros and outros in Descript. And again, this is something that I may be putting myself out of business because this is something that I used to do for clients using Adobe After Effects. But with Descript.com, you can do it yourself pretty easily. If you can change the text, you can change the video. And of course, upgrading your Zoom interviews with Descript. I know when we do a Zoom interview, right out of the box, it doesn't look that great. And as I showed you earlier, my typical Zoom video interview edit would look like this in Final Cut Pro and take probably 45 minutes or an hour to do this in Final Cut. And I'm a fast Final Cut editor. And in Descript, it's 15, 20 minutes editing the text and adding the template and being done with it. So again, we're really just talking about saving time and saving stress, having access to video software that used to be reserved for the big, complicated video editing. So all that comes with this course. You can see, I'll send you a copy of this PowerPoint, but you can see how much detail I go into each one of the modules and each one of the lessons. So this talks about the specific dates starting on June 6th at noon, Tuesdays and Thursdays. And if you can't make it, everything's recorded. So you just have to go into Thinkific and watch the recording. I'll also add some Q&As and things like that. But this is the real nitty-gritty specifics of what I'll be teaching over the course of 3 weeks in June on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We'll talk more about how to do the overdubs and voice cloning and everything from text to video to captions and graphics and B-roll all the way through to June 22nd, which is the final project. And then I'll do an extra bonus Q&A call on June 27th. So I want to be done by 4th of July so I can take some of the summer off. But I hope you'll check it out. I'll put the link in the chat as well. But let me just put that in there before I forget. Oops. You can either do, I think I have Discovering Descript or just discoverdescript.com will take you to that page. If you're part of my Fast Forward Mastermind, everybody in Fast Forward, which is my monthly membership, gets this for free, like they get all my courses. But I think it's going to be a great way to get you up and running and actually using this to make video something that's fun rather than something that you may dread doing. And if you do video or you do any podcasting for clients, this is also good, especially for VAs or folks who are producing stuff for their clients. And again, that's how I'm using it. And John has a really good question that I'm so glad you asked. Since Descript is ever changing, and it is, will there be additional classes and updates over the next several months? Yes. So whenever I do an update or a new module or go back in and update something, you'll get those for free if you take the original course. And again, I go to these Descript things at least a couple times a week. I talk to the developers, which is cool because now they're adding a lot of AI. They're adding text to image. So I spoke with one of the developers about that, and I was a beta tester for their text to image. So if you can't find a video or an image within Descript and you say, I need a picture of a man yelling loudly on a cell phone at an airport, and you type that in, it will give you images of that, most of which are pretty accurate and pretty usable. So they're starting to integrate a lot more AI into it, which is why they're changing often, and which is why I think I'll have to update this class monthly, if not more often. But yeah, you'll get all those updates as Descript continues to evolve and become easier. And a lot of times the changes are just cosmetic. Like they say, oh, we moved the stock video thing from up here to over there. But when you take the class, we'll navigate through what every single button is here. And in very short order, you should be able to create quickly because you'll know, okay, this little button is my images and this button is my record and this T is for captions and this is to change sizes of videos. So again, once you actually learn by doing and you get in there and start doing it, it becomes pretty intuitive and pretty quickly. Again, just for me, for someone who's been editing on Final Cut for years, to go from this weekend long podcast edit to really what was probably more like an hour or two editing my 15-minute podcast, that kind of pays for itself because I'm just getting so much of my time back. So if you want to either ask a question in the chat or unmute, please feel free to do that. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Oh, Diane said, can Descript take an hour-long video and automatically cut it into short 5-minute clips without you choosing the clips? That's something that I've been doing in video.ai. But what you can do here and what I do often is I can copy a paragraph and then just say duplicate to new project, and it will create a clip for that. So what I do with the podcasts is my podcast clients want a couple of 2 or 3 minute clips. So I go into the main podcast and I just copy and paste and say duplicate project. So it doesn't do it with AI automatically, but you can do it really quickly and you can pull out clips or duplicate projects. So what I often do is I take a paragraph and I say, I want to use this 60 seconds on YouTube Shorts. So I take that and duplicate to a new project and then change the size to portrait. Can you pull a full transcript from an uploaded video, or do you only see the words as the... I'm not sure if I totally understand, but you can either import text or you can type in text or you can talk in text. And if you import video audio, it will automatically give you the text. So I hope that answers that question. Again, if you want to unmute, I'm happy to try to answer other questions. And obviously the course will go into much greater detail on all this fun stuff. I will open Descript right now just to show you in real time what I did this morning. In this particular case, my client sent me the audio of her podcast, and I had a thumbnail. So I imported the audio and thumbnail, and then I added this waveform. They call it a waveform. And I could change the color of that to match the color of the thumbnail. And then the other thing I did was I brought in captions as well. And again, on the captions, I can control how they look and the font and the layout. I can get rid of them altogether if I don't want them. So what I did with this was I just took out a handful of ums and ahs and I just added the captions and waveform. And then I also created a version for LinkedIn. So I copied and pasted this, however long it is, less than 60-second version. And I made it square so that it would be more appropriate for LinkedIn.
To you is 15 questions that drive.
So again, she's not doing any video. I'm just basically taking her audio podcast and giving it a video feel. If I wanted to go really crazy, I could go in here and say, I want some B-roll of a meeting or leadership. If I just put in leadership, I don't know what the hell will come up. But so if I wanted to add B-roll and somebody talking over what she's saying, I just have to basically drag and drop this over here. So now I've got a scene that, oops, it didn't drag. There it is. So now this is going to show up in that section instead.
My gift to you is 15 questions that drive.
I have to undo that before I forget because that's not what she wants. So yeah, I can bring in sound effects or B-roll, video B-roll. In the images, it has the new text to image. So if I say man yelling on cell phone, again, it's only going to be as good as the prompt. So the more specific you can be, the better. And this is just that if you can't find, I'm sure I could find an image or a video of a man yelling on a cell phone, but I just put it in the text to video to see what it would come up with. And it's still thinking. Eventually it'll come up with that. The only other thing I want to show you, because it's so impressive, if I can go back here, is find an example here. I have no shortage of projects. So let's see if we can find one. So here's my Godfather podcast. You a loyal guy. And this is the background that I have. Now I have overlays in here. This is a pretty busy background. But if I go here and I go to my effects and click on green screen, you see how that knocked out the background completely with one click, not 45 minutes of screwing around in Final Cut. And then if I say, I don't like that background, I want a different background, I want an office background that's brighter than what I just had. So I look at images for office. Oops, that's not an office. And then I say, what, I want an office without people, or do I want a cityscape, or do I want something else? But once I find that, if I wanted to be more specific, I could say office interior to get people out of there. I cannot spell. Then I can find offices that are a bit more generic. So if I pull in this one, it's going to bring that in. Oops. But it's going to cover me. So then I just have to say send to back. And then line it up properly. But again, I can move my image. I can move the background if I want to be to the right or something like that. So you can see we're 5 decades apart. It's a pretty good green screen for a couple clicks. Spidey's power. Again, I can move my waveform here. Loyalty and the complicated. And if I say I don't like that, I just go back and undo a couple times, and then I can go back to my original background that I liked. Just undoing everything here that I did. So any questions about that? I'm just looking forward to doing a really immersive, full-on class about this. That's not going to be overwhelming because we're going to do it over the course of several lessons, but it's going to be a way to do it together and get as much help as you may need for that. Yeah, I'm sorry if I missed you. Can you pull a transcript from an uploaded video? Yes, you can do that. Did you say we can upload our own photos? Absolutely. This photo that I initially had from my Godfather podcast was a stock photo that I found on my own. So I'm actually green screen in this case. But yeah, you can add, if you decide you want to add your own file, you can just go to files and then search whatever file you want to pull in from your desktop. You can also add the audio again underneath it, images. So they're pulling from Unsplash and various sources. So they have hundreds of things like that. The other thing that's cool that I have not done too much yet, but I'll do a lesson on this, is using their templates. So if I want to use a specific style of caption or a specific intro or outro, they have a lot of stuff that I can start with. I like to start with templates again because it just saves a ton of time. Lower thirds, things like that, that again, you would have had to add all kinds of different sections to that. Whereas now I just put it here. So I've got my subscribe and my like buttons here now, just like that, which I have to move. I can make them bigger, smaller, etc. So lots of templates and ways to work with it that way. Cool. Any other questions before we wrap up? I'll remind you about our lovely little class that starts on June 6th. Everything's going to be recorded so that you can go back and watch at your own pace or watch the replays or things like that. But I think that pretty much covers it.
I have a question.
Sure.
2 things. Well, first of all, I got the Descript through your link. So you're saying,
Oh, thanks.
and so now I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh my God, so where am I downloading what? So I guess we're going to kind of go through all this stuff, how to start at the beginning, just to upload, download all of that stuff. And then my other question was, you just did that video for your client, or even you're the Godfather. So when you just do a podcast and you put it in there, that picture or that where you put the podcast together, that is the product.
That's the podcast is the product.
The picture. Go back to your.
Hold on a second.
Got the Godfather thing there.
Yep. Okay.
So this one here, this whole thing, that software where you see all of the names of the script. The script is running in the background. You can hear your voice, all this stuff. That is the only thing that people are seeing, right? That is the end product.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And again, I started with a traditional size video, but if I wanted to turn this all into a TikTok video or something, it would change the size there. But again, I'd have to go in here and tweak it a little bit more and move things around and stuff like that. But it's that easy to change it.
The text that is inside of the script that we're seeing that we can edit, this is just for us to do all of the editing and all of this stuff.
Yeah, the text, all they see at the end, all the person sees at the end is this actual video here. They don't see any of the other stuff. I can output a transcript because I've got it here, but I don't have to. And again, I was pulling in images from The Godfather and Succession and all this other stuff. So this was a little bit more complicated, but again, it's just easier because it's doing the words. Just when I just added captions, I can change the style, the size, the color, all that kind of stuff.
I'm excited for your.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Course. Yep. So again, see, I moved this and now it moved it on the whole thing. So I may have to go back and clean it up a little bit. But if I started with this video and then I added all the other stuff later on in Descript. But it was a lot a lot quicker than what I usually do in Final Cut Pro.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're nearing the top of the hour. So again, feel free to unmute to ask any questions. I'm going to check the chat one more time. See you in the course. Awesome. It's all cloud-based. Usually save these on a hard drive anyway. But as you can see here, everything that I do in Descript is saved in Descript. So all these months worth of files, I don't even know how far back I go, all the way back to last March. So I have been using this for a while and it's only gotten better. So this is going way, way back, but they constantly update the software. That was when I was using like a beta version. So yeah, I've been using this for over a year, but in the last 3 to 6 months, it's gotten a lot easier. This is like the old version had all these things here. And now the new version looks a lot different, as you can tell. So any changes, we'll keep up with that and we'll make sure that we get that in the course as well. Any final questions? It's discoverdescript.com if you're interested in the course. Starts on June 6th, Tuesdays and Thursdays at noon Eastern. Everything's recorded and in Thinkific 24/7. So you can go back if you missed something and all that good stuff. Thanks again for being here. I really appreciate it. And if you have any questions, shoot me an email. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.